Welcome to episode 11 of Powered 4 TV Big Fight Weekly. I am your host, Stu Palmer, with my co-host, my cousin, Chris Hume. Nice t-shirt as well, mate.
Oh, do you like it?
Thank you for repping the other show out of the Stu's Wrestling Podcast and get all your merch from Wrestle Merch Central. That was just a quick one then. It has been absolutely madcap across combat sports this week with fights across both disciplines that we like to cover on the show. And I think we will begin with Joseph Parker defeating Derek Chisora by split decision. I am struggling to see how Joseph Parker's won that fight. Dylan White has come out and said that Chisora won the fight. Chris, what did you think?
Mate, I've not been funny, but I watched that fight today. Yes, I only watched the 10-minute highlights that was on YouTube. But, I mean, it was clear as day to me that Chisora was the one that was working for the whole 12 rounds. I just thought I had Chisora winning. You know, I mean, at least up to that round 6. But I still think, even though he looked gassed after round 6, he was still going for it. And I just didn't see what Joseph Parker was. I mean, other than the odd 1-2 here and maybe the odd uppercut he was catching Chisora when Chisora was coming in. I had Chisora UD for that personally, mate.
Unbelievable. It's just like he was holding him a lot as well, Parker. He doesn't do an awful lot. I've seen him against AJ. You know, that was probably one of AJ's most boring fights. Doesn't I don't know. I'm not sold on him at all. And I think it's unjust for Chisora. He was outworking him. Okay, the knockdown early on, it wasn't flush. He's grazed him, I think, more than anything. I think he was a bit unsteady, wasn't he? But
yeah,
I'm struggling, especially in the early rounds. It was just a domination for me. But did Parker just box clever and we couldn't see it?
I don't know. You mean I sit here like every Monday and I analyse through everything we go through. More so, I mean, MMA because that's my field and boxing's yours. But I know when a fighter's winning a fight and Chisora is winning that fight. And I just thought he was up. I was well up in the cards. I didn't see something that Joseph Parker anything he did in any of the rounds that really stood out to me. That that should and could have won in the fight.
Just like late pressure from Chisora as well. It wasn't just in the early rounds, very fast start, got the knockdown, disputed knockdown really. If we're gonna get into brass tacks about that,
we'll call it a flash knockdown, wouldn't you then?
But good range of shots from Chisora. But I do take maybe Chisora's gas tank because he put a lot into the rounds as well. Maybe that went into Parker's favour then because he's tired. So he's probably, getting a few shots in that he might not have necessarily got with a fighter who, had the gas tank. But yeah, I think a rematch just to surmise at the end. I think they're going to have to get back in there personally.
Yeah, they're going to have to because obviously Chisora's disputing it already. And so they come out, didn't he, after the fight and said he wants a rematch with him. So what else have they got after this that, we'll say Joseph Parker can fight? Could he fight Ruiz? Could he fight Wilder? White? I just think in those three fighters who are all heavy punchers, I know he's fought, Dillian White, but yeah. Wilder and Ruiz, do you not think that they'd clean someone like him out?
They're perfect though at the same time because with AJ and Fury obviously tied up as we're still waiting to hear on the date and all the rest of it. It carries on that one. Yeah, they'd be the fights to make. I'd even put Povetkin in the mix again with Parker. These guys are going to want fights. I'd still say Dillian White and Wilder would be the one maybe to make because they're not tight. They can't get to the titles at the moment. So we will see. We will see. And moving on, Andy Ruiz Jr. back in the ring, looking much trimmer. He's slimmed down a little bit. He's lost that midsection. Good fight with Chris Arreola. Chris Arreola 40. Early they were trading and he survived the early knockdowns to outpoint Arreola. I think Ruiz he threw a lot more punches laterally in the fight. Also, he managed to land more early on though. It was back and forth, wasn't it, Chris?
You know what? Did you say that Areola's in his 40s?
He's 40, yeah.
That man hits hard, doesn't he? Because Ruiz isn't someone that can just goes down after one punch. So Yeah, I mean, and he took a lot of shots from Ruiz throughout the whole of that fight and stood still and, kept coming. So, props for a man who's 40. I mean, they say a combat sport's a young man's game. Clearly not.
I think just because of COVID, the pandemic as well, some fighters haven't fought since 2019. You can see a bit of ring rust. You can see a bit of ring rust there through no fault of their own. We'll get on to other fights later. I've seen the same sort of thing, same sort of stuff on social media. They need to be fighting now, don't they? Consistently. Yeah. Two, if you're in championship contention or you're a champion, you're looking at 2 fights a year, aren't you? But the other guys, you'd be looking hopefully to get 3 fights in 2021 and then hopefully getting up to title contention.
Yeah.
But he laid it on heavy in the second round. Arreola as well. He put him down. And notice he stumbled him a couple of times. But I think as the fight wore on, Ruiz Jr., he boxed better. He was landing more volume. His landed strikes were a lot higher by the end of it. I think it was like 50, 60 more strikes landed than Arreola.
Used a lot of combination shots, didn't he? In the latter rounds, and really mixed it up.
I think he dominated, he continued to dominate as he went on. Ruiz landing increased. As I say, that happened as well. Combinations were crucial for Ruiz as well. That's why I've jotted down on my notes there. So, yes, it'll be interesting to see what fights get made. You've got to put Ruiz in the mix with the guys we previously mentioned, and it'll be good to see. But I just think they need to get Fury and AJ sorted now. Because these guys are going to be wanting title shots eventually into possibly 2022. So, yes. And we move on now to the ladies. And it was Katy Taylor taking on Natasha Jonas, a repeat of their battle in the Olympics in 2012 at amateur level. And it was for all the gold at lightweight. What a fantastic fight it was. I think Taylor was the better fighter early on. Natasha Jonas, though, late on, started to box tight. They were very close in with one another. And I think as the fight went on, Jonas did well. I think she deserves a lot of props, Chris.
To be honest with me, this is another fight for the ladies boxing that you got to say is an absolute great advert for it. Absolute great advert for ladies boxing and ladies combat sports in general. I was absolutely impressed with them again. And they just went to war.
Sorry, carry on. No, you carry on. I've jumped in.
No, I just thought the fight was really, really close as well, though. Towards the latter. I thought when it got to the decision, I didn't know. I couldn't really generally pick who could have won that at the end.
Jonas's head movement when they were in close and they were in the pocket trading, she did well because Katy Taylor's known for landing. Not necessarily a knockout artist. 6 knockouts in 18, now still undefeated. But I think Jonas, as it went on, she really grew into it. It wasn't a one-sided affair by any stretch. I could maybe see a rematch further down the road with this one as well.
Yeah, you could.
Absolutely. So, yes, the ladies there, fantastic advert for British boxing. We're flying the flag, it's got to say in world terms, across the board in boxing. And we move on to our new IBF flyweight champion. It is Sonny Edwards, following in the footsteps of his brother Charlie, who was a world champion as well, beating M. Talani for the title. M. Talani, a long-time champion at flyweight. He's been champion for many, many years. What an absolute treasure trove of boxing that was, I tell you. The movement, the hand speed, getting in and out, not getting up against the ropes as well, managed to move away. I think it was absolutely just a slick performance from Sonny Edwards, Chris.
Mate, I've watched that today. And my only thing I put, because I think this was just a staple of the fight for Sonny Edwards, he had, I can't pronounce the guy's name.
M. Talani.
But he had him chasing shadows for the whole fight. He had him chasing shadows.
It was only late on where he was getting the odd shot on him, to be fair. It was
too fast.
What a performance. It was great. It's great to see. I think, with Sonny Edwards now, I think he's going to be champion for a long time at flyweight. It doesn't get enough plaudits, the lower divisions at times. So it was a great fight. It was good to see. Very, very one-sided against a game veteran who's been champion for so long. So, it will be interesting. He did get caught late on a little bit, as I said, but
Yeah, but it was nothing. I don't think it was anything that was going to stop the fight. I think that Sonny Edwards was just too slick, as you said. He's
crazy.
I like an electric bolt around there, and just like I said, the guy couldn't. He was chasing shadows the whole fight.
So yeah, fantastic news. The Edwards family have got another world champion. It's great to see two brothers doing it. The Smith brothers did it years ago. So yeah, we're absolutely amazing. Great night on BT Sport again as well. Great promotion from Frank Warren. And we move on now. It's just a quick recap. We're going to cover Chris Eubank Jr. back in the ring, which is his first fight since 2019. He's come in for a bit of criticism off the back of the fight the other night. It was to get rounds in. That was the main proviso, I think. Roy Jones Jr. in the corner of Eubank Jr. as well, Chris. So he's got the man, the legend in his corner.
Yeah, I noticed. I didn't see obviously that point, but I heard the commentators mention that he had Ray Jones Jr. and they were saying about his movement was esque. So obviously he's been working on a lot of movement with Roy Jones Jr., which is someone an elite boxer in his day. So yeah, I saw it. It was more of a prep work. It wasn't like a major thing. I was just, as you say, to get around him, to understand more of the boxing, to get his fitness, to push him onto other fights. He looked okay. I didn't say anything spectacular, but you can see he was the better fighter.
I think he's going to stay at middleweight as well. He went up to super middleweight for a bit as well, didn't he? But I think there's fights for him. You've got Golovkin, you've got Charlo, you've got Andrade as well. So there's fights, I think, which he'll be looking at middleweight to get into. So let's just be fair to Marcus Morrison, though. He took some shots.
He did
in the fight to the body, to the head, but he was game. I felt it was a good 10-rounder, good litmus test. Obviously, going forward for Eubank Jr., he's got to get the rounds in, but it's caused havoc, this pandemic. I think that's the other issue. I hate to keep saying it, the cliche. I think it's a lot of ring rust, Chris, for these fights.
It will be.
What do you think? Do you think he needs to stay at middleweight rather than go up to super middle to go and take on the likes of Canelo and maybe fight Billy Joe Saunders again?
It's harder because you just ran off a few people in middleweight, and we obviously watched an Andrade fight, didn't we, against Williams the other week, and he looks very good. They're all really hard fights in both divisions for him, so it's kind of pick your poison, isn't it? Really, but if you want to beat the best, you've got to beat the best, haven't you?
Also on the undercard on Saturday, Chisora Parker, we had Dimitri Bivol, who retained his title at light heavyweight also. So it was another good 12 rounds for him going forward. Again, it's just going to be a case of unifications now for Bivol, I think. But again, it's not fought. I hate saying it. They've not fought since 2019. It's a recurring theme. But Richards put up a good fight as well. He wasn't blown out by any stretch. He got some shots in. It was a good test. I think a lot of just getting rid of the ring rust. It just that's why I took away from a lot of these undercard fights. Yeah,
but you can see it. You can see it. It was different with, say, with MMA and WWE per se, were like a train that kept on going, didn't it, throughout the whole pandemic, where boxing did, stop to a halt. So you are going to get these sort of fights now until probably maybe early mid next year, until everyone then starts getting their fitness back in and getting back into their own routine. I
think it's just no fans as well. I think that could be a factor. Maybe Eubank Jr. might have knocked him out. Bivol as well. I think it's different, isn't it? It's just hard. It's just hard about the fans. I don't know. I think they should have run the card in Gibraltar again, just to do another, just for a bit of sound, a bit of crowd. I think that they want to show what they can do. I know they want to get rounds, but I think we would have seen a couple of KOs in them two fights, Chris.
You saw the difference
with fans.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you saw the difference last weekend at UFC when they had fans. You saw the difference completely, and it rallies everyone up, doesn't it? So, hopefully somewhere down the line now, in the next couple of months, we can get fans in boxing in the UK. Not just in every other country. Get our UK fighters pushing.
And just to close out on the boxing results, Campbell Hatton victorious again against Levi Dunn, another 4-rounder. lot of criticism came his way after the first fight in Gibraltar. I think it was last month, wasn't it, when he was out there? On commentary, you could hear him on commentary as well. They were saying it was a better performance from him. He was landing. I think he's going to be quite powerful at the weight. I think, his dad was famed for the hard body shots, as we've said before. I think another good 4-rounder for him, Chris, for young Campbell.
Much more measured in this fight than he was in when he fought in Thingy Bob now. I think that word has gone up where that was now. Gibraltar, sorry. He was much more measured. He was much more measured. In Gibraltar, he was just like a ravaged dog, wasn't he? He was just trying to, get the guy out there. In this fight, he was much more measured. Took and picked his shots. Wasn't as going straight in and trying to finish the fight. And I can see there's a good future for him.
Had a good shape as well when he was throwing. His shape, he's better shape. But I'm just sick of people knocking him even off the back of this result. They're just getting him ready. They're getting him prepped. He's going to be fighting. He's going to fight a lot of times, isn't he? These short round fights to get him into it. I think it's unjust. It's aggravating because half these people, they've never boxed around in their life. They've never trained boxing. Yet they think they know that he's not going to cut it. I think he's a young fighter, Chris. What do you take away from people being negative about him?
Yeah, but you're going to get that in everywhere. You know what I mean? I bet people are negative when they watch us too, and they can, jog on. At the end of the day, that is what it is. You're going to get that from everybody for any sport, any fighter. Look at the negativity that people like Conor McGregor get, and they all still put their telly on and watch him win or lose. They're still there watching, so they can give all they want. If you don't like the person, don't watch him.
At the end of the day, his dad boxed the elite, so much experience. He's fantastic, wasn't he, for the UK, and did it all on the world scene. And Matthew, his dad, and his uncle, sorry, should I say, his dad, 2 dads. Matthew's obviously cornering him. Ricky will always be at the fights, won't he? But obviously Matthew's got a lot of experience in there, a lot of in-ring experience. I think it's going to be interesting to see. And, they'll progress him. People are saying, these guys he's taken on the first 2, they've not won a fight. It's just, it just annoys me. It annoys me, the negativity. Two fights in.
There's no rush. There's no rush for the guy to be, throwing him in against these bigger guys who have more experience. What, to embarrass him? What's the point in that? There's no point in that. Just let him carry on doing what he's doing, and when he's ready, he'll make the bigger jump.
They could have kept him in longer. He could have done more on the amateur scene. But I think they know he's got something, so they put him in the pro ranks. So yes, that is the boxing portion of results on the show today, and we're going to move on to UFC Fight Night from Saturday in the US, Sunday early hours of the morning our time, and it was Yuri Prochazka with a brutal spinning back elbow to Dominic Reyes. Chris, I'll say what I always say when we got into the UFC. The floor is yours. What did you take away from this one?
What, from the knockout itself? Did you see how Reyes' head landed on the mat after that? Jesus. This was a brawl, wasn't it? Let's be honest here. They both come in straight from the get-go through heavy shots. You know what I mean? Prochazka had Reyes wobbled a few times, but then you could see that Reyes was game. Reyes came in at, really wanting to win this fight. And you could see every time he got knocked, back, or he was rocked by a punch by Prochazka, he was coming back in with his own. And, he cracked Prochazka hard, and Prochazka just walked through him. And if you look in the middle through the first round, Reyes' nose is obviously broken again. His face is absolutely a mess. And Reyes has hit Prochazka with really, really solid shots, and there's no marks on Prochazka whatsoever. And he's just walking through it. He is an absolute animal. We spoke about him last week, and I said this to you backstage. You didn't know him then, but you bloody well do now. I can't believe he's gonna be a problem. He's gonna be a problem, and I think, as we said off camera, I think he's gonna be a problem for Jan. As good as Jan is with striking, we know how brutal he is. It's the battle of the Eastern Bloc when them two finally get in there. But as we said off camera, and you alluded to, he's probably better off not going straight for the title. We've said about Rakic. You think that's the more feasible option for him? Don't throw him into the deep end straight away. I don't think Prochazka is that worried about being thrown in the deep end personally. because don't forget, this is his second fight in the UFC, and this is a main event, so he's already been thrown in the deep end. I just think you don't know the date with Blachowicz and Glover, do you, when they fight? So that could be that could be August, that could be September. I can't see them two fighting in June or July, and obviously June has its card, so I can't see it being July. So you know what I mean, put him against Rakic, because Rakic looked fantastic against Thiago Santos. So maybe put them together and see how that pans out, because Rakic, as well does deserve a number one contender, fight eliminator. And obviously Projector does as well, obviously.
That division is European heavy. Probably like for the first time, I would say, but you can cut in there if I'm wrong. I think they all dominate. It looks like it's going to be dominated by European fighters for a while, for a long time.
Yeah, well, it's hard, isn't it? Prochaska, in my experience, has just come out of bloody nowhere. I mean, he beat Özdemir, didn't he, last year? Not last year, in Dubai this year, sorry.
Which was a fantastic result. I didn't know. I couldn't remember the fight until you said, to beat Özdemir. Özdemir he's been in and around the top echelon, hasn't he, of the light heavyweight division.
Well, he's had a title shot as well, don't forget. He fought Daniel Cormier. But, he got wobbled in that fight to Prochaska, but he seems to be he gets wobbled, sorts his head out, and then cracks on. He's going to be big trouble for anyone else now in that top five. But it's good to see, and it's good to see there's life after John Jones. The people, there are all these fresh people coming through. And, we can make this division still, glorified, even without John Jones. But going on the topic of John Jones now, right? So I looked at the people John Jones has fought and their records after. So obviously Reyes has gone now on a 3-fight losing streak since facing John Jones. Santos has gone on a 2. Anthony Smith went on a 2 or 3. Right. So we go back to Dominic Reyes, and obviously he's been beaten now by Prochaska and he's been beaten by Blachowicz. Does it make you think that John Jones wasn't really that good that night, that Reyes outshone him?
Just because of the devastating, he's been on a skid, like you say, a 3-fight skid. Where the hell does he go next? If he loses another one, unless he's contracted to a set number of fights, if he loses a 4th, though, I think it's good night Vienna for Reyes, which it begs the question. How good is John Jones now? Because he took him into deep waters in that one. It was disputed that he might have beaten him. And then it's crazy, Chris. It's crazy to think that Reyes is now 3 fights down, considering where he was.
And been finished emphatically twice as well, don't forget. Listen, the thing with Reyes is I think you get a bit of leeway when you've lost 2 title fights. I don't, if there were 3 normal fights and not a title fight, I think then he probably would be on the chopping block. But because he's come up 2, title fights, I think you get a bit more leeway. But it's a bit hard to see how he comes back, because that was so devastating, spinning back elbow. Like I said, you just watch his head drop on the mat. I said to Alison when we watched it, and I was like, kept on replaying it. Just watch his head as it bounces in and then bounces back out again. You know what I mean?
It's a highlight. It's a highlight reel where they'll just play that. That'll be quotation marks. That'll be the highlight reel. Him landing, and it was the one before. He caught him prior. He set it up so beautifully. You're not expecting a spinning.
That close.
Yeah. It's so quick, and you think he might have checked it or something, but he was obviously hurt.
He was rocked just before that because he caught him with a really good stiff right, and it pushed Reyes straight back. So obviously, as you saw, Prochaska, the whole fight was constant like that, wasn't he? And just in Reyes' face. So Reyes did really well. To be fair, he went to the right, didn't he? Went to the left, and he was catching Prochaska every time Prochaska came in, but. Like I say, Prochaska was just constantly eating those punches. I'm really impressed with both of them, though, to be fair. Yeah. And easily already could be fight of the year.
Fantastic performance from Prochaska. I think he's put the division on notice, absolutely. Also, guys, we will get through your comments at the end of the show. That'll be our last segment. If you're putting comments in, we will be reading them out. And I think it's perfect time now to go to break to see what Powered 4 TV have got on offer on demand.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to enjoy Jesse's survive.
The babyface Pitbull is a mark for himself.
The fantastic pro wrestling for you there. Rock music and wrestling intertwined. Now available on Powered 4 TV. Recently acquired to Powered 4 TV. What's not to like? Wrestling and rock music, Chris?
Mate, no funny, right? When that was on then, I was like, I know that song. I've heard that song somewhere. And I was like, that's Born to Raise Hell by Motorhead. And I was like, that was on the film Airheads with Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi years ago. That was the opening track to Airheads. Yeah,
1994 Airheads. But yeah, pro wrestling for you now available on Powered 4 TV, along with so many promotions. Now, some quite. I've lost my train of thought here. Diego Sanchez has been let go by the UFC. He's been a mainstay since 2005 on the original series of The Ultimate Fighter. Chris, what did you think about this news?
I don't know if you've watched some of the videos that have come across the social media platforms, especially on YouTube as well. His coach, Joshua Fabio, seems to me that he's an utter dickhead. I've seen a lot of fighters since then on Twitter and Facebook have all told Diego Sanchez to let go of this guy. There was a video, I don't know if it was during his last fight against Josh Matthews when he lost, or it was the lead up to the Cerrone fight. But there's a video that Joshua Fabio has got Diego Sanchez here and himself, and he's filming this, and you've got Paul Felder and you've got all the rest of the commentators around there. They must have some other big executives of the UFC there, and he was just letting rip, saying, the story perspective you're giving Diego Sanchez is disgusting. You know what I mean? You're saying all these bad things about him, and he sounded like an arsehole because it seemed like.
Why is he with him then? Why has he stayed with him?
I couldn't tell you. There's a training video on YouTube you can find with Joshua Fabio, right? So they're in their cage, and he's got a knife, and I'm not joking, a real knife, and he's chasing the guys round. So they're sort of trying to sort of dodge out the way of this knife. And I'm like, it's not the sort of practitioners I remember or anyone else who ever does anything along with martial arts would ever do. But that's what he does. It seemed to me it's all me. And it wasn't Diego Sanchez, really. It was more like, I'm this guy and I'm this guy. And I think UFC were just like, if you don't get rid, you can go, which is a shame because Diego Sanchez stuck up for him. Apparently, he wanted all Diego Sanchez's medical records for the 16 years of UFC before Cerrone fight. I don't know if you saw what Sanchez looked like in the fight week of Cerrone, because he didn't look 170 to me at all.
Was he under or over?
He looked really under.
Right. So that must have been alarming. If you're thinking that it's crazy. He's been around so long. He's only 39, but he's been around the company so long. Obviously, gone into the Hall of Fame wing for the match with Clay Guida as well.
Rightly so.
And what we forget, mate, he's gone. Was he at middleweight in the Ultimate Fighter? Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking that? But he's gone. Yeah. He's fought at 145 as well, which is incredible. Yes. It's a 40-pound differential. It's just crazy. But yeah, some of your favourite Diego Sanchez fights, I think, Chris, during his long tenure in the UFC. Such a shame that he's been cut for these reasons,
It's hard. You've got to look at, his perspective and the UFC perspective. You don't want people like that around, do they? And with him, you got to feel sorry for him because he's been a mainstay. He was on the very first Ultimate Fighter. He won the very first Ultimate Fighter. He is the only one till now that's still in the UFC, still active since the very first Ultimate Fighter. So it's hard. If you want to go for fights, obviously Clay Guida won me, and you will definitely high five for that because that was
100%. 100%. It was just, and it deserves to be in the Hall of Fame wing. What a fight. And still holds up today.
His fight with BJ Penn for the title after that was absolutely brilliant because he got a hell of a good head kick by BJ Penn, and he had a massive gash along here. Yeah. And he fought through it. The guy was phenomenal. From walking to the ring, going yes, before Daniel Bryan, he had the yes movement himself, didn't he? He carried a cross like the Exorcist to the ring. He was a character. He fought his arse off, and he did, so well to get to 39 and still be active and still be in the UFC. But many don't really get that far. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a crying shame. I hope he can ditch this guy, find himself again, and maybe find another company without this Joshua Fabia, and sort his head out.
I feel like he's been done dirty here, Chris. But where can you see him? Everyone's going to start saying, well, you might see him in Bellator now. Does he go to ONE FC? What do you think will happen with him? Do you think he will go to another promotion and have a go elsewhere, or will he just take a step back? I think he's very much like Cerrone. They just want to fight, and then you look at the age of these guys and thinking they should take a step back, but that's what they know, and they leave it all in the octagon, don't they, Chris?
They do, but that's their life, isn't it? That's their livelihood. That's what they've been doing for their entire life, pretty much. It's eat, train, go and fight, and that is what they live for. Yes, it's a shame. I hope UFC somewhere down the line offer an olive branch. Get him on the broadcasts, get him speaking on the booth like Rashad Evans does. Tyler Woodley got cut a few weeks ago, and he was on the broadcast desk this week. So it's good that they're not just getting rid of these fighters and then that's it. They're giving them something else to do. Like Michael Bisping. He's all got something else to do that remains in the UFC because people love these people and they still want them around.
That's it. And it's a shame, but Hall of Famer Diego Sanchez, UFC veteran, as we say, fought at 145, fought up as high as 185 when he came through in the Ultimate Fighter. I think he's been done dirty, but the bad news continues because Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards has been rescheduled for June. I say bad news. There's only a month difference. It was meant to happen this month at 262, as you can see there. It's now going to be UFC 263 in June. Chris, it's not a massive injury, is it? From all accounts.
From what reading, it seems to me it's a minor injury, but at the end of the day, this is a big fight for Nate Diaz as much as it's a big fight for Leon Edwards. So he doesn't want to go into these fights and be injured. He was injured apparently so when he fought Conor McGregor the second fight, and that was tossed around as saying I was injured. So I don't like those excuses. But if you feel like this injury is going to hinder you in the fight, like I said, because it's a big fight. Fair dues, pull it back and go again in a month's time. I'm a bit gutted, because obviously the fighting gods last week, especially now into this week still, aren't being very kind to us. We've had such a good run, There's hardly any fighters getting pulled or getting injured. And then last week and then beginning of this week, it's just been fighters pulling out left, right, and centre, and it's gutting. But again, it's still a big card that's going on. They're still doing the 5 round, even though it's not even going to be a co-main on 263.
Wow. Which that they don't do that. They don't do that. They ordinarily. They want them to be slinging, don't they? So they want an action pack for 5 rounds, don't they? They're absolutely.
Of course they do.
I think I said it's bad news. It's only a month. If they were going to turn around and say, "Look, we can't put a date on it because it's a lengthy injury," but at least it is.
Yeah,
it's only June. We've only got to wait till June, haven't we?
And it's a bit gutting because we're 2 weeks away from the fight. Really, I think if as a fan speaking and everyone else watching who's a fan of Leon Edwards or a massive fan of Nate Diaz, you're 2 weeks away from seeing that, and it's like there, isn't it? In the palm of your hand, and then it's taken away from you. So yeah, it's only a month. Like I say, it's still going on to another banging card. We have Izzy Vittori on that card as well. So, like I say, they're still keeping the 5 round fights. It's still going as it is. The only thing is now is what do they do for the co-main for next week? Because there's nothing been officially said here. So that
who wins it in June? Who do you think?
I'm sticking to when we had Dave Faulkner on, when we spoke about this when it initially broke. I still go with Leon Edwards. I know Nate Diaz, and I'm a big fan of Nate Diaz. I love Nate Diaz, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Nick come back, actually.
Absolutely.
But I just think because Nate Diaz hasn't fought a pure 170 for such a long time, and Leon Edwards is such on a high. He's beaten so many people. Okay, he hasn't beaten massive fighters, but he's got this. Would you call it an 8-win streak now? Or was we sneaking it to 7 because of the Bahal? But he's beaten the Sanchez, and don't forget, Sanchez has beaten Nate Diaz. He's beaten names that Nate Diaz hasn't beaten. But the thing is with this, and I think it's clever that it's gone 5 rounds because Nate Diaz is better at a 5 round than a 3 rounder. I still think Leon Edwards is going to be too strong. He's going to utilize those head kicks, the leg kicks, and how Nate Diaz does not like his leg kicks, and it's just the clinch work. And I just think he's going to be too strong for Nate Diaz as Leon Edwards, and this is the lift off for him to go and get Usman.
This will be Leon Edwards' biggest paycheck as well.
Yes, definitely.
If we would have had him against Jorge Masvidal, he would have made big money on this. But he must be looking at this as much as it is about beating Diaz. It's the paycheck as well that he's going to get. It'll be his biggest paycheck, won't it, Chris? Just on Nate Diaz's name alone. Nate Diaz.
Neat.
Diaz.
Do you know who else is on the card?
Go on, fire away. Let the viewers know.
Bahal Muhammad's on the card, by the way.
Oh, right.
Yeah. He's fighting Damian Maia in that on the fight before they fight actually on the card.
So if he comes through it, which you'd probably say would be, but if he gets taken down to the ground, we know what Damian Maia's like. But you'd have to think it'd be Edwards and Belal maybe in between. Can you see that, or do you think they'll look for Edwards to go further up to someone maybe getting to a title shot?
The problem here is Usman's come out now. I said he wants to fight again in July. Fair enough. He didn't take much damage against Masvidal. And he's called for, not Covington, which you'd be shocked by. He's called for Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa's done brilliant since going up to welterweight.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong.
He has looked fantastic, yeah.
But if I'm going to say someone out of the whole there, if we're not picking Leon Edwards because Leon Edwards facing Nate Diaz, so we pull Leon Edwards out the equation. But if Usman wants to call for a fighter out that's worked his arse off, I still think Stephen Thompson warrants the title shot of everybody else in that division because he's beaten everybody he's been given since his last loss. Michael Chiesa, again, I've got a lot of respect for Michael Chiesa, but Michael Chiesa is a grappler. He doesn't strike. And what does Usman do better than everybody in that division? Pure wrestling. Obviously, he's got power. And I can't see that fight ending well for Michael Chiesa, to be honest with you, if that goes ahead. The fight to make for Usman is Colby Covington, because Colby Covington is the only one that really forced him to actually fight proper and really worked him hard.
That's got money written all over it again. And yeah, hopefully breaks his jaw. Hopefully breaks that jaw again. Maybe do something far worse to that loudmouth, Trump-loving. Oh, I hate him. But he's doing his job because he's eliciting the response. And I think we will move on now. We've got Waterson versus Rodriguez, which headlines UFC Fight Night. Waterson in UK odds is 13-8. Rodriguez is 1-2, the favourite to win. Chris, we'll go over this one quickly. What are your thoughts?
Well, we haven't actually got an official to say this is going to be the main event, but from what I'm reading, but sources I've read from are pretty much saying this is going to be the main event. But like I say, UFC haven't announced it officially per se. And then, I don't know. You see, I like Waterson. I think she's really charismatic and she's fantastic with the karate. She's fast. She's slick. She's very experienced. She's fought in the likes of Rose Namajunas. You know what I mean? She's the best in the division. The problem I see with Rodriguez is in her last couple of fights, she's gassed and she's gassed hard, really hard. And this is going to be her first. This is going to be her first ever 5-round fight. I just feel like if you haven't got a very good gas tank and you're going into a 5-round fight against someone who experiences Waterson, yeah, it's not good.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. So that headlines this week. And moving on to Bellator, there's been a shake-up in the light heavyweight Grand Prix because Yoel Romero is injured. So in comes Augusto to face Rumble Johnson. Chris,
apparently Romero failed his physical. The rumours I'm reading, you know.
Really? What?
Yeah. Just to say what? Just to say what? Right. How? Just says
very unclear, yeah.
Which is unlike Romero because he's built like a bloody superhero, isn't he? Yeah. So apparently he's failed his physical. I don't know too much about Augusto. I know he fought a month ago and he beat Angelicas, Julius Angelicas. I think Licas. There you go. He fought him and beat him. But yeah, I think it was a unanimous decision. I'll give you this very quick and slick because
that's fine.
We all know what Anthony Rumble Johnson does. Kills you dead.
I'm looking forward to seeing him with the explosive power that he has. And yeah,
he's been out for a while, so you know what I mean. Granted, I don't know much about Augusto.
No,
I just know Rumble Johnson. What Rumble Johnson does.
He's still a heavy favourite, isn't he? And that's no disrespect to Augusto. We don't know too much about him. We could be surprised, but I think that power that Rumble has. Yeah. Whether he's been out, how long has he been out?
Well, he lost to Cormier, didn't he? So I'd imagine it'd be about four years, maybe so. Just to slip this one in as well, Michael Venom Page is on this card as well against Derek Anderson. Just thought I'd slip that one in. It's another fighter that, you know, it's okay, Derek Anderson, he's okay. He's good what he does. But again, this is another a tin can thrown at Venom Page. The thing is, I'll say this to Bellator, please give Michael Venom Page an actual fighter. I know he lost his last fight. He's lost his title fight, didn't he? He got knocked out. And
why are they not giving Venom Page some, you know, not to say proper fighters? That's doing a disservice to people he's
I know what you mean, but you want
a top end guy in the division to come in and he needs a test. It
was Douglas Lama who knocked him out.
Yeah.
I don't mind Venom Page and I don't mind his skill set. I'm not huge on Venom Page because I just think he's in a division that isn't very solid, and I don't think it is welterweight. If you put Venom Page in the welterweight division in the UFC, he gets eaten alive. But you know, he brings this sort of weird style, doesn't he? And people like it. And I mean, he's British, and I look forward to seeing him fight. But again, he's fighting fighters that I don't think are on his level. He needs to be fighting the Douglas Limas, the Roy McDonald before Roy McDonald went off to PFL. He needs to be fighting the better fighters to bring the best out of him. The people will give him more respect because at the moment, people look at him and think, well, he's not fighting anyone that good, so what's the point?
That's our Bellator roundup and MMA roundup. And there's been some breaking news in the last hour or so. Canelo versus Saunders is off. There's a dispute about the size of the ring. They want a 24-foot ring. Canelo's camp have turned around and said they want a 20-foot ring because they are worried about the movement of Saunders, allegedly, as you can see with the graphic there that Rich has pumped in. Tom Saunders is saying they're trying to take the legs away of Billy to win the fight because they know it's movement that will cause Canelo problems. Chris, I'll believe it when I see it. It'll still happen Saturday in America, Sunday early hours here. That fight will not be off. I'm saying it. It's just too close. There's no injury. There's no injury where it's got to be off. That will get sorted. There's too much money being thrown on it. It's at AT&T Stadium as well. They're going to be looking at doing like 90, 100,000. I think it's full capacity in Texas. It's just too much. It's too far down the track now. Is it just a news story as well?
It's like Chisora again, isn't it? I mean, he lost the coin toss and then he went off like a little baby, didn't he? He huffed and puffed, told David Hay, I'm not fighting. I don't want to come out first. And then they had to go get his mother, didn't they? And his mother sorted it out for them. Maybe they just need their mothers to come in and say, look, lads, they don't do this in any other sport. You fight in the ring and, have a fight. Stop pussyfooting around. And I haven't got much more to say about that. Just listen, you're there now. Just fight. People have paid to go. People have paid to watch. If it's on box office, stop farting around. Just get in the ring and fight. This is what your job is, and this is what you're here to do.
They do think Saunders is a problem. He's southpaw as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They are. I think they are as much as Canelo. His favourite. I think they are. Maybe there is a bit of worry in there because he hasn't fought someone like this guy. He's very slick. It's a different type of boxer, southpaw stance. Canelo's been training for it for months and months. But I think, I want Billy Joe Saunders to beat him. But Canelo is the pound for pound king in boxing. As I think it'll just be interesting to see what develops this week. Do you think the fight will still be happening in your mind, in your opinion? Yeah, it's too much
money on the line, isn't there, though, as well?
It's fight week. Surely this is written into contracts, before they sign a size of a ring. I'll believe it. I'll eat my hat next week live on air if this fight gets cancelled, Chris. They can see my bald. They can see my bald head because that's what I think. But yeah, as you can see there, there's question marks. It's like one of the biggest fights is like so far the biggest fight of the year across in the boxing. So yeah, and as you can see below, we have got viewers' comments to come.
Fire away.
Carnage Payne, a weekly viewer. Love his comments. Can't wait for this. Been waiting to see what you made of Saturday's event. Canelo smashes Saunders for me this Saturday. I think that's a recurring theme, Carnage, to be fair. I think that some people do think Saunders is going to be problematic, but Canelo is only lost to Mayweather. He's gone up the weights. I know I keep saying it every time about him, but he has gone up the weights. Mind you, that's if it happens. I blame Eddie on the ring size dispute. He wouldn't have used that size in the UK, so why is he having it there? Yeah, because I think he knows Canelo's the cash cow, so he's going to cater to Canelo. That's where the big deal was with the Zone and Matchroom, wasn't it? That's his prize fighter, across his Matchroom stable. So, yeah, but they've got to get it sorted. Why don't they just do a 22?
meet halfway.
Why don't they meet in the middle? It's simple. They can either expand it or saw it off, whatever they need to do.
Or just do your job and bloody fight, yeah.
That's it. Rambo is here again. All right, Rambo, it's off. Don't think it's a play either. To tell fans now to get refunds is not something that a promoter would want or a tactic. He's saying that they're getting flights now home. Eddie and Canelo won't budge. It's ridiculous. Why was it not in the contract then?
Well, that's usually because there's so much politics in boxing, isn't it, between fighters? You think that would be in the contract.
It's good to have that point of view that you think it's not going to happen, Rambo, as well. I mean, I personally think it will happen. Who would have won Tyson Fury versus Lennox Lewis both in prime, and the same for Tyson and Wilder? It's a tough one. It's a tough one. You know, Lewis lost a few. Different eras again. I would probably lean towards Lennox Lewis in his prime. I think he did very well. Did he fight Tyson a bit too late? Yeah, obviously, you know, Tyson had his issues, didn't he? I think if he'd have fought prime Tyson, what might have happened? You know, 2002. It's a bit late in the day, wasn't it, with that? What do you think, Chris, between Tyson, Fury and Lennox?
We both watched Lennox Lewis as a kid, didn't we? More so now as we're older, watching Tyson Fury. I like them both. I thought they were both quite similar sort of fighters, weren't they? I'd still go Lennox Lewis because Lennox Lewis, you know, he beat everybody, didn't he? He beat both Klitschko's. You know, I mean, and he did it not easily, but he did it emphatically, didn't he? I'd go Lennox Lewis in his prime.
That's cool. Yeah, you know, he avenged the loss to Hasim Rahman as well. Add that neck, and Rambo also said about Tyson versus Wilder. Tyson, I think, would beat Deontay Wilder in his prime. It'd be awkward because he's shorter. You know, the taller fighter. It's awkward to get your shots in. We've seen it with smaller fighters. Do have a bit of an advantage sometimes. I know they haven't got the reach, but they can be awkward because you've got to punch downwards, haven't you? Prime Tyson hammers Wilder.
Yeah, but Tyson's movement in his heyday was hard to even land a glove on him. And, you know what I mean? And I'll say this, and I know people like Wilder, I don't care. Wilder's a one-trick pony.
Absolutely. Carnage pain. Sorry, Chris, go on. No, you had something to say.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Add that next to Fury saying he's annoyed at AJ's people not sorting it. Boxing up the creek these days, you feel. Yeah, it should be sorted. I just think it's to keep it prevalent and keep it newsworthy, all this. I agree. I think it's bollocks, the whole thing. I think it will be happening. You know, we want it, don't we? And we don't want it too late. They need to get it sorted. Brett Thomas, hi, everyone. All right, Brett. All right.
Hi, Brett.
This is why Logan Paul versus Floyd is the way forward. They just get on with it. YouTubers can get fights done faster for the public. Jake Paul versus DC, I'd like to see next. I wouldn't, Brett. He would torture him on the ground, I think. He'd just persecute him. He'd make it long and painful on the ground. I don't think he'd even strike. I don't even think he'd strike him, Chris.
No.
What do you think?
Take him down and smash him with elbows. Just hit that annoying nod to the face and just drop it. Yeah, Cormier would destroy Jake Paul. I'm not sure in a boxing fight because Cormier wasn't that great as a boxer. He was good up in the clinch. You saw it against Miocic, you saw it against Rob Johnson, you saw it against Gustafsson. But, you know, if he's standing in the middle of an octagon with striking with someone, you saw what Rumble did to him, and Rumble hit him with one punch and he flew to the other side of the octagon. In a boxing fight, Jake Paul beats Daniel Cormier, and it's horrible to say. Daniel Cormier, again, is not a boxer. He's a wrestler, you know, that transitioned into kickboxing. No. Jake Paul, fighting Garnu. You're fighting Garnu. You want a big fight?
I do have to agree. With him, though. If they do get Floyd and Logan signed and done.
They have.
But, I mean, you know, it is 100% happening, yeah? I am right in thinking, right, okay. Yeah, that's testament to them getting that then, because there is a lot of faffing about going on in pro boxing with getting these cards done. So, yeah, no, take your point there. All right, Lewis.
Yeah,
all the way up in Scotland there.
Don't forget, though, that they were supposed to fight in February, Logan and Floyd. So it has been faffed about and moved. So it wasn't straightforward.
Brett, I think Tommy Fury's a good fight for him, though, at the same time. You know, he's going to have more of a following off the back of it. Yeah, you know, I agree. Would you say Amir Khan is a flop overall? I find him annoying. We have spoken about Amir Khan's career.
Yeah, we have.
And he never shared the fights. He had some great wins. Marcus Maidana, who was a problem for Mayweather, he absolutely schooled Marcus Maidana. Brilliant fighter at welterweight was Marcus Maidana. And, you know, Mayweather did have issues. A lot of people thought Maidana had beaten Mayweather, but, you know, did he have the judges in his back pocket and stuff like that? But what do you think, Chris, about Amir Khan's career?
Listen, he did what he did and beat what was in front of him. He won a world title. If you can call that overrated, then I'm not sure I could agree with you.
he took it's always been the chin, but he's had some great nights and he raised the profile of UK boxing on a world level. Went to the States as well, trained in the States, didn't he? Brett, don't like Canelo after his comments about Jake. Makes out he's all about sport when he is flying private jets. I don't think the King's shit. Jake Paul should take him down. No.
That's a death warrant. That's me saying, why doesn't Jake Paul fight Francis Ngannou? You're fighting elite fighters here. No. Sure, here you go. Plug away, mate.
You can get it at WrestleMerchCentral.com. WrestleMerch Central. No, not Pro Wrestling Tees. No, WrestleMerchCentral.com. Or go to thank you, Rambo. Yeah, we're not on Pro Wrestling Tees. We are with WrestleMerch Central, and we're very happy. And loads of products, not just T-shirts. There's a varsity jacket as well. I'm making this about Stu's Wrestling Podcast here. Rambo, random question. You remember how UFC fans used to boo great wrestling or Matt's work? Now they understand more. Does boxing have the same issues? Like Tyson used to knock out in seconds, Floyd fight long. What do you reckon, Chris? On Rambo's question there.
I don't think they boo great wrestlers per se. I think UFC fans get a bit agitated when they're on the floor and they're not going anywhere. I do get his point that the fans are more educated about certain positions and certain ways, in a grappling stages of fights. But I don't think they booed them. I think it was more to say when it was a stalemate or there were, one guy was on top of it on the other guy and weren't going anywhere. There was no movement. No one was trying to break out. There's no striking going on. There's no, an attempt for a submission. I get what he means there, but that was because, fans were bored of just seeing two guys not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree again that they are more educated now. They do understand a lot more vast of an MMA fight and, the breakdown of a certain particular, say, a takedown to a transition to a submission,
I think they're becoming more savvy as styles have changed. It's not just about knockouts, is it? You see wrestling more and more. You see jiu-jitsu, don't you? Rio Ferdinand versus Jake Paul. Is that possibly happening, Mark? That's the first I've heard of that. He is a joke. He wasn't a good football player either. Well overrated. Jake would knock him down like a blowing pin. Do you mean a bowling pin there, Brad? Probably. Yeah. Rio was a good centre back.
My mate Rommel. My mate Rommel.
Rommel, Penseals, two things. Reyes, it's a bit of a slump, or he had a really good night with John Jones fight. Yeah.
Good night. Yeah,
like
good night.
Like you said, Chris, what sort of condition was John Jones in at the time? Yeah, it's a valid point. You would have thought he was going to go upwards, but he's on the decline off the back of facing Jones when he had a good showing. DAR, Chris, you said about Diego Sanchez earlier on commentary. Ramel agrees on that one.
It would be nuts, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. El Sacano, regular viewer, most realistic boxing film is of actual sport in the ring. I've been told Daniel Day-Lewis in The Boxer had the best leg work and positions of a natural boxer. Rocky, Raging Bull, the fighter, real steel. Rocky, all day long. Which Rocky, though? I'm going for Rocky versus Drago. That was the best one for me. And, Mr. T and Hogan were in number 3, weren't they? But
yes, they were.
I'm going for when he fought Drago, when he was against Dolph Lundgren. Boxing fight is good. Brad Pitt was fantastic in that role. He played that role perfect, didn't he, with the Irish?
If you're
the Irish tone, it's very fast, very, very fast paced. Ramel, Edwards would win. Nate hasn't fought in years. Yeah, we're in agreement with you there. We are edging towards Leon just because he's been more active. It's not a film, Brett Thomas, but George from London's Burning was an unlicensed fighter. He had a good scrap on episodes. He had a nagging wife as well. Rambo, Billy used to train him. You can watch it on YT. Yeah, we'll have to watch that. We'll have to get some old school London Burning.
I'm not going back to London's Burning.
Bit of nostalgia, Chris. George, scrapping. I'd rather watch George and Jake Paul. George. Yeah, every week, Rambo. There's always a reference to London's Burning. The other lads have it on their shows on Power 4 as well. MVP is overrated, Chris?
No, but I think Ramel could... He's not far wrong there because we haven't seen him fight. We've only seen him fight Diego Lama, haven't we? We haven't seen him fight anymore. I'm going back to what I said. We haven't seen him fighting more elite fighters. You can only be judged on obviously what's in front of you. But if you want to be judged as the best, you got to fight the best.
I tip my hat to MVP though, having the boxing fight a couple of years ago when he got in there. He was on one of David Hayes' cards. Fair play to the guy going into another combat sport to do it. Saunders is going to be a bit of a problem for Canelo. The length and skill, but I think it's just Canelo's power. Is he going to get him out there? There's so many permutations that Tyson would smash Wilder, one missed jab or straight from Wilder, Tyson moving left and hooked, and too fast, too powerful, and punching downwards because he's smaller as well. Thanks so much, Powered 4. Yeah, thank you, Brett. Rich and John will appreciate that. Cool t-shirts, Stu. Yeah, you can get them at WrestleMerchCentral.com. I don't want to make it about Stu's Wrestling Podcast. Thank you, Brett. Just get them ordered. There's all sorts of merchandise on there, hoodies, all sorts of stuff. Buying it Friday, going to get one from Jeff from London's Burning. Yeah, has he got a bit of a side gig selling merch, has he, for WrestleMerch? Thank you once again for your viewers' comments. Thank you very much to Rich for pumping all the graphics in. And thank you to John. Thank you to John as well at Power Forward TV for giving us the platform for Big Fight Weekly every week. Chris, where can the viewers find you, mate?
Find me on Twitter at Van Hume. You can find me on Instagram at VanHume86. You can find me on our Facebook page at Powered 4 Big Fight Weekly Conversations. You can find, type it into Spotify, Stu's Wrestling Podcast. So Stu's apostrophe S. We're on Spotify, Apple, Deezer, YouTube, all the podcast directories and platforms. I'm getting tongue-tied here quite a bit today. Yes, you can find us wherever Stu's Wrestling Podcast are. And Chris, I will see you next week, my friend. And we'll be covering it all. Big Fight Weekly, loads of UFC and boxing again to discuss. Thank you to everyone. Thank you very much.